Yeah, trendsetter, whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center, hit it dead center. Bullseye, hit it the most, is no misses. Something like fish in a barrel, it's no different. Blindfold on me, I still got the most vision. Trendsetter.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Carnivore Evolution. I'm Victoria Olson, your host. We're here with Mark Ennis from Ireland and Alessandra Chilopoulos. And Alessandra's going to talk to us today. She's a certified nutritionist and a kinesiologist. Hello, Alessandra. Welcome to our show.
Hello, thank you very much for having me today.
Oh,
Um,
we're thrilled. We're happy
yeah,
to see you.
yeah, it's actually my first podcast, so I'm very excited.
Amazing,
Oh,
amazing.
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah,
Wow, we're honored. So we'd like to know a little bit about your background and how you came to be interested in the carnivore diet. If you would
yeah,
please tell us.
sure. Well, it's a pretty long story. Well, I should start by saying that I was born and raised in Italy, so I'm actually Italian. I don't know, maybe it wasn't clear, but so I wasn't like I didn't grow up on a standard American diet, thankfully. So no, food coloring or like extreme chemicals that they have here in the US and are banned in most of Europe, of course. And a lot of home cooking. So my mom was always cooking for us. So I wasn't, eating out every meal or like fast food like here in the US, which is a big problem. Um, so it wasn't, sorry, I'm still a little sick. It wasn't super unhealthy, but as every Italians know, we kind of grew up on pasta, pizza, potatoes, a lot of pastries, the culture there, it's like based on carbohydrates pretty much. And of course, I was a kid and I had my ratio of sweets and gelato, ice cream, all sorts of like cookies and stuff like that. So I was never, as a kid, a big fan of vegetables, which was like a big problem, because your parents are worried about that, and they're like, yeah, she's not eating her greens, so she's not getting her vitamins. But I think that's like more a reflection of like what a kid intuitively knows that it's not like good for you to an extent. I don't think vegetables are inherently bad. Some people can tolerate them better than other people, but I just, kids usually don't like broccoli. That's a matter of facts. So I knew what was going on, but my mom used to call me PPP because I would only eat pasta, potatoes, and pizza. So that was it. And she was always making fun of me. But so I was never overweight as a kid. I always had like a little bit of extra belly fat, I would say. I mean, my genetic I kind of got from my mom. I tend to gain weight on my upper body more than my lower body. So more like androgenic type of fat distribution. So I always struggle with a little bit of lower belly fat, but I was pretty active as a child. I did a ton of swimming, all kind of different sports. I would go hiking with my dad. I would always play outside because at the time we didn't have a phone. So, and that's a big problem with kids now because they're always in front of the phone. They don't get activity, they don't get movement. So I was lucky from that point of view, but then I got into teenager years and I started being less active because I wasn't interested anymore. When you're a teenager, you just want to go out with your friends and you start probably drinking. So I was doing that, not too much, but it's kind of like a cultural thing in Italy to go out and have like a spritz or like something to drink with your friends and eat chips and like unhealthy food. And I was also more like free on my food choices. So I was eating pretty unhealthy at the time. I was like, oh my God, I had this problem with potato chips. I would eat a whole bag, like, 500 grams of potato chips. It's like they're so addictive, almost every day. And I remember there was a whole month that I was always out with my friends. And so in Italy, pizza is like $4 or $5. So I literally ate pizza for a whole month in a row every night. And that's when I started gaining a little bit of weight. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I need to do something because we can't go on like that, you know. Now I'm starting because when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, you usually can go by with eating processed food. At least like most teenager, they don't like, you know, gain too much weight because we're super active and like we're still growing. But at that point, I started seeing my body changes, like changing a little bit. So I decided to start going to the gym. I didn't like it at the beginning. Then I progressively got into it and it became one of my biggest passions. Going to the gym, I started working with a coach. And so we started like, at the beginning, I was just going and I was eating what I thought it was healthy. So I was eating like whole grains, still eating a ton of carbohydrates, like chicken and rice. I started getting into vegetables more because everybody was telling me, you know, it's healthy for you. You need those vitamins. So it was like big salads, like you know, those big raw salads that you cannot eat because you think they're gonna fill you up, and you don't want to eat a lot of calories because like all of that problem that a lot of women have, that it's like you need to follow these diet trends or you need to eat in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight, like all this BS. And you know, um, so I started working with this coach because I wanted to get into bodybuilding shows. I wanted to do my first show and I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to look like very lean, like those girls that step on stage. So we started working together and it was like a 6 to 7 month process. And so this coach that I trusted at the time, but I learned very quickly that I shouldn't, you know, because he wasn't giving me a meal plan, but he was lowering my calories a lot and all the way to like 1,200, 1,100 calories for like a month at a time. And I was eating 30 grams of fat, which is nothing for a girl, especially, you know, in the growing phase. And it's just like wrecks your hormones. After a few months, and I was also overtraining because I was training minimum 6 times a week in the gym, weight
Oh
training.
my gosh.
On top of that, I was doing 45 minutes of incline walking. And on top of that, I was doing 14,000 steps a day. All of this while
My
eating
goodness.
very, very low calories. Because, you know, they're like, yeah, you need to get lean for the show. And so that's what you need to do. I was also drinking so much water and restricting salt that I learned it's not good. It actually dehydrates you, you know? It doesn't hydrate you. Like drinking more than a gallon of water a day, it's not a good idea. That's not what you need. And taking like, oh my God, so many supplements, like 50 pills a day, like so much money wasted, so many supplements. And so after like a couple of months, I started noticing like digestive distress, bloating. I didn't know what was going on. I was very fatigued, of course, because all the movement and I wasn't eating enough calories. And so I had problems, you know, going to the bathroom. I had a period where I had diarrhea and I couldn't understand like what's wrong? What am I eating wrong? Because I thought I'm eating super healthy. I'm eating a lot of vegetables. I'm eating low fat. I'm eating like egg whites, chicken breast, stuff like that, you know. And I was using so many sweeteners, you know, but it in everything, in my low-fat yogurt, even in my tea, in my coffee, everywhere. Everywhere I could put some sweeteners, I would. And I think that destroyed my gut microbiome a lot and, you know, my gut lining. At the time, I thought it was safe to overindulge in sweeteners, but now I don't have any. because I think I feel my gut like like hurt. It doesn't hurt, but I see like digestive distress or bloating if I try to consume sweeteners. I don't think they're safe for human consumption because it's a chemical at the end of the day, so I don't think we should eat that. Um, so that I think that was a big component of it. And so I was always bloated. I wasn't feeling good. And so I thought I might have like some food intolerances. I might be intolerant to eggs, egg white. I thought, so I stopped eating eggs. So that was very painful because I love eggs. They're so good. And then, okay, that didn't solve the problem. So I stopped eating dairy because I thought I might be dairy intolerant. That's a common one. So I started replacing, like, I was probably having like low fat yogurt and low fat milk, stuff like that. And I started replacing that with soy milk, almond milk, oat milk, all that kind of stuff. And so at the end of after a few months, not even the 6 months before that, I lost my period. And my coach told me, oh, it's normal because you're getting lean and you're not eating a lot of calories, but when we get back, like when you're gonna start eating more calories, you're gonna gain your period back. Well, it's safe to say that I didn't get my period back for over 2 years. I went to a lot of doctors, gynecologists. They put me on progesterone therapy. They tried to give me their nutrition advices, which was not eating more fat, but eating more carbs, because I need more energy, or that's what they were saying. That didn't fix it. Mhm. And then, oh, to mention also with that coach, because I was under eating and overtraining so much, I was doing like deadlift almost every single day of the week. I developed like a big issue in my back because my technique wasn't on top of it. And so I developed a hernia. I had sciatica problems and lower back problems for like years because I would go to the doctor, they wouldn't give me an MRI, they would just say like you just get a massage. So I ended up after after a couple of years of pain, I ended up just giving up on the gym. And so losing the muscle that I had left from my sorry, my heavy so sorry. From my
Okay.
like my heavy dieting, I lost a lot of muscle, of course, because when you're in a calorie deficit and you're not nourishing your body enough, you're not just losing fat, but you're probably losing like bone density, muscle mass, all of that. So I wasn't super muscular. Then I stopped going to the gym because I had this like very, very intense pain in my back, and the doctor was saying, "Yeah, you're never gonna step in a gym again because it's bad for your back." So at that point, I was already studying exercise science because the gym was my passion. So I was kind of lost at that point. I'm like, what am I gonna do now? Like I can't go to the gym. I feel so bad. But that's what I'm studying. So I decided to just travel, take like some time off. I went to Indonesia by myself, and the like food in Indonesia, it's not the best, I would say, because it's a very poor country, and all they eat, at least on my budget, I was like going low budget, was so I was eating like their food. It's mostly fried rice, fried noodles, so it's all fried in seed oils, it's all carbohydrate. Even if you get like some eggs, they usually give you one egg, which is fried in seed oils. Or if you order some chicken or some fish, it's not like the ones that we have here here that are like, fatten up. They're like very skinny, so it's not a lot of meat. So for 2 months, I ate very high in carbs, high in seed oils, and very, very low in protein. And I would say that's where my body started showing some signs of, I was still bloated. I was still constipated from my all of my dieting background and all of the vegetables consumption, all of that. And on top of that, I lost all of my muscle because I wasn't consuming enough protein, I wasn't consuming enough healthy fats. So I was just like, I achieved that like skinny fat look, and I wasn't feeling good. My hair were completely destroyed because, of course, if you don't have the nutrition you need, your hair suffers. And then from Indonesia, I kept traveling. I went to Hawaii. That's where I met my husband. That's why I'm here in the US now. And he was into the gym, and he was eating like decently good, he was having a good amount of protein. It wasn't like super clean food, but I started eating more eggs in the morning with avocado. I started eating more protein. I was still like drinking a lot of like diet soda at the time. I was still having carbohydrates, but I would say it was less restrictive than when I was in my bodybuilding time. So I actually ended up starting to get my period back finally, because I think because I was eating a lot of eggs and a lot of avocado, so more fats in my diet. But it wasn't like regular or anything. And then I went to the US with my husband, and I started, eating a lot of fast food or whatever was available to me or whatever was cooked for me. And it was a lot of carbohydrates, fast food very often, sweets, and even the flour in the US is different. It contains more gluten, more pesticides, and there's more like toxic ingredients overall in the food. Um, so I really started gaining weight when I went to the US, and my bloating problems got even worse. So I was never like, I don't know if I had like IBS or any of those diseases because the doctor didn't even know, I didn't do like some testing for it, but oh my God, I was like very uncomfortable, like pregnant almost, very bloated, gassy, constipated. I then I went back to Italy. I went to my doctor because at the time I wanted to build muscle. And so to build muscle, if you look online, they tell you, if you go to the gym, you want to build muscle, you have to eat more carbs. So I was eating enough protein. I was eating overall more calories, overall more fats, but still like 50 grams because I thought I only needed to eat like 1 gram for body weight. So I was around 50 to 60. And if I could, I would always stay lower than that because I thought, fats are bad for you. But I would eat 350 grams of carbs. So I kept gaining weight, and I wasn't gaining the muscle mass that I thought I would. I was feeling always still bloated and stuff. So I'm like, at that point, I couldn't take it anymore. So I started going to the doctor, and like I told him, like, there's something wrong with my gut. I don't know, I'm doing everything I can. Like I'm eating a lot of fibers, I'm drinking water, I'm doing movement, I'm going to the gym, I'm walking and all of that. And so the doctor didn't really ask me what was my diet, didn't really like care about that. He just gave me the first probiotic and the first fiber supplement to try. So I tried that. It was like a psyllium, something like that. Those type of fibers that you drink with water and create like a gelatinous substance in your gut. So you can only imagine how bloated that got me. Because if you don't go to the bathroom and you just keep eating so many fibers, and on top of that, the supplement, that makes you even more bloated. The probiotics weren't working, so that went on for months. I went back to the doctor, so he gave me another type of fiber supplement, another type of probiotic supplement. That went on for like a year or more that I was trying all of these different type of medications. And then I went in Australia for a year for like a working holiday um experience with my husband, because I was waiting to go to the US. I was waiting for my visa. So in the meantime, we went to Australia. And the first 6 months in Australia, I kept eating the way I knew it was best for, that bulking phase, to put on muscle. And I was just like in pain. The same old problems: bloating, constipation, gaining weight. Until I came across a book, was the one Fasting Like a Girl. It's a pretty famous book by um I don't remember the name of this woman, but she talked me into fasting and like a lower carbohydrate diet. So, and then I was following some health expert on Instagram. I was following like more the animal based word of it. So like Paul Saladino and others. And so I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. I'm just gonna cut the sweeteners and I'm gonna cut the processed food from my diet. I was still consuming a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of like sweet potatoes, sourdough bread. That was it for my carbs. And oh my God, I saw improvements in my bloating almost immediately. I lost the weight almost immediately. I felt very good. I was also very active though, because I was working, like I was standing a lot of time, a lot of hours of the day. And so I saw great improvements, but I kind of stalled, you know? I still wasn't eating high fat, because I was always going for the lean cuts of meat. I was going for maybe chicken sometimes. I wasn't like eating a lot of, I wasn't eating butter or anything like that. But I wasn't afraid of eggs, and I wasn't afraid of like ground beef and avocado and stuff like that. I would get full fat yogurt, for example, but I was still like eating a good amount of fruits and honey and some sourdough bread still, and sometimes potatoes, because I thought, like, if I go to the gym, then I need the carbohydrates for energy. That's what they tell you. That's what you learn, from other fitness influencers and people like that. But I was feeling pretty good, honestly. But I stalled. I started gaining a little bit of weight back because I think I was drinking a lot of milk. I was eating a lot of dairy, I think, and also the fruit and the honey wasn't helping. And so I got very, very interested in nutrition. And I have like a lot of books now, a lot of books. I started listening to podcasts. I started following the carnivore diet community, a lot of like experts. I really like Benjamin Beekman. Do you know him?
Oh, sure.
Oh my God, he's great. Like
Yeah.
I love how he explained all the insulin resistant stuff. And so I started like learning a lot. I'm like, oh my God. Actually, I don't know if all of those fruits and honey are good for me, because, you can't really lose fat if your insulin's up all the time. And so I transitioned more to a very, very low carb, almost carnivore diet. I'm not perfect. I'm not like doing only meat, eggs, and butter. I still have, here and there, I still have avocado or maybe some onions, some
How
vegetables
how
if
dare
I'm out.
how dare you?
I know, I know. I'm not the 100% pure carnivore, but I feel so much better, honestly. I never have bloating unless I went to Hawaii for vacation with my family, and I just gave myself permission to try to have some of the foods I would eat normally, to be social with them and enjoy some sweets. The whole week I was so bloated. It was insane. So uncomfortable and so bloated. I came back here. I did a couple of days, 24-hour fast, only eating meat, eggs, carnivore diet. I'm 100% better. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Oh,
perfectly. You can keep
oh,
going.
okay.
You can keep
Oh,
going.
okay. Yeah, 100% better. I don't think
Okay.
she can hear us.
Is everything okay, Victoria?
Oh,
She'll be back in on a second now. It's still recording anyway. You can still keep talking to me.
okay.
Okay, the recording
All right.
stopped for a minute. We lost about a minute and a half,
It was
and
still
we're on the second recording.
okay, so it's
Oh,
okay now.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just saying that I kind of gave myself permission to eat something, some sweets and stuff when I was in vacation. You know why? Just to test it out, see how my body reacts, and it reacted very bad. I I was bloated all week. I was suffering. I didn't feel confident in my body. So I came back here, did a couple of 24-hour fasting. Eating clean, my usual carnivore diet. In 2 to 3 days, I feel 100% better. Like I'm back to my normal. I don't have any bloating. I lost that, water weight that I gained during this week. And I don't think I'm ever gonna do it again because it's
Mm,
not worth feeling that bad.
mm,
I rather, I was so bloated, I felt shame just getting in a bikini. I didn't want it to to show myself.
mm, mm,
It's like this is not my normal body. Like what's going on?
mm.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. I want to go back to the bodybuilding if that's okay, because
Mm-hmm.
this is what we're seeing a lot at the moment. We're seeing a lot of people when they're struggling to lose weight, they're going to see these PTs, these coaches, these bodybuilding coaches, and they're saying, okay, listen, if you want to get lean, you need to suffer. You need to
Yeah.
decrease your calories. You need to be in a deficit. And this is what I hear all the time, that if you want to lose weight, you need to get used to suffering. And
Yeah.
I cannot stand that word suffering. That really, really annoys me.
And
And what really frustrates me is that you can clearly see the pain in these clients' faces. You can clearly see they don't want to do it. And when I heard your story, Alessandra, I could hear the exact same thing. You went through so much. You still had the gut issues. Nobody was giving you the answers that you were looking for. They were just focusing on weight loss. That was it. No,
that was it.
don't worry about the food. Don't worry about your health conditions. Just be in a calorie deficit. It doesn't matter what food you're eating.
Oh
All that
yeah.
matters is a calorie deficit.
I was in the gym just a few days ago, and there was a personal trainer that was coaching this poor girl, and I heard him saying, "You can eat pizza every day as long as it fits your calories, and you will lose weight." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this
No,
poor girl."
no,
I
no,
just
no.
I just wanted to go there and tell them, like, what are you talking about? Why are you giving this awful advice
Mm,
to this poor girl that is probably like just desperately trying to lose weight, and she's
mm,
probably counting her calories, and it's so stressful on your mental health counting every single calories. I was at a point that I was weighing my lettuce that has
Oh,
like, oh my God,
oh,
I was weighing
oh,
every single thing. And
And you know,
it's
and you know,
just,
and you know what's frustrating, Alessandra? Because when these people go and see these coaches and they're getting all this rubbish advice, then when you come along or I come along and say, well, listen, I'm going to help you. You need to do this. They're looking at you and thinking, okay, you're just another coach. Like, what are you going to do differently that this person hasn't done in the past? And it's
hmm
like trust me, I'm not going to be doing the low calorie diets. I'm going to teach you about, like you mentioned, insulin resistance.
yeah,
I'm going to teach you about sugar in the blood, like all that kind of stuff, food addiction, sugar addiction. And they're like, I've never heard of this kind of stuff. And they're like, there's a reason why you haven't heard of this, because it's not been out there. And like you, I've been in this game. Well, I've been coaching now for well over 30 years. And I used to coach this. I used to be a PT like 20 years ago. I used to coach this to clients. I used to coach low calorie, low fat. You need to be in a calorie deficit. You need to train pretty much every single day. I did this. I did this for years. And then when people got back to me with the same condition as you, and they said, Mark, I'm losing weight, but I have issues with my stomach. Can you tell me what the problem is? I hadn't got a clue. I was like, okay, go and see your doctor.
Yeah.
I don't know how to help. Or go to the supplement shop and get yourself a digestive enzyme or a probiotic. Because I didn't know what to do. I was just basically taught in college the science of
Yeah.
food and calories and low fat and the best way to lose weight, and you just need to move more, and carbohydrates are our main source
Yeah.
of energy. We need to stay away from fats, we need to eat our vegetables. And then when you look at the food pyramids, the top two macronutrients that we have are not even essential. One is
I
not an
know.
essential
I
macronutrient,
know.
and then the vegetables, they're not even a nutrient.
Yeah. It's
It's
crazy, honestly.
it's
It's
like
crazy.
what is going on?
I wanted to say that my original plan was, after getting my degree in exercise science, I had my eyes on this online university that we have in Italy, that it's like just to become a nutritionist. And so it's like a 2 years master after exercise science degree, you can become a nutritionist. So that's what I wanted to do. Then, of course, I went to the US, so I had to wait because I wanted to get into the university in the US to become a dietitian. That's a lot of years, but like I thought it was worth it. And I am so happy I didn't waste my money on that.
Mm,
Because when I started studying alone, I just realized they're just gonna teach me to, the
mm,
to learn the pyramid, that carbs are the most essential ones. Because if I see at other nutritionists that went to nutrition or dietitian school, like that's what they teach, that's what I know, and I'm not spending my money to learn that because I know it's wrong. I'm not accepting that,
mm,
so I'm so happy that I waited before getting into nutrition school, because even the nutrition certification that I got through ISA, that it's like a fitness-based program, they taught me like what are the three macronutrients, what are the vitamins, what are the minerals, and how important is that you get 60 to 70% of your calories intake through
mm,
carbohydrates, and if you want to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. That's what they taught me, and so I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm
mm,
not spending 6 years of my life learning something that it's not correct.
mm. And what you're doing is you're just chasing shadows because you know that you're going to be in a calorie deficit, but it's never going to be sustainable long term.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah, you
lose
might. Yeah.
you're going to lose the
Sorry.
weight. You're going to lose the weight. You're going to lose all that weight, and then you're going to find it very, very hard to keep it off.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Extremely hard.
extremely hard, because like even after my bodybuilding prep, like I started eating more calories and I gained the weight back or more, and then I wanted to lose it, so I went back into a calorie deficit, but it wouldn't move.
Mm,
It wouldn't move. Like it felt impossible. It felt like I was resistant to a calorie deficit. I felt like every woman feels like her metabolism is broken.
mhm,
Something is wrong. It
mhm.
doesn't work on me. It's my hormones, or it's whatever. No, it's just the fuel system.
And
It's just why you're eating.
and can I ask you, did you actually compete? Did you actually do a bodybuilding competition?
I actually, it's funny. I didn't get to compete because COVID started. So all the
Yeah,
competition were canceled. So I went through all
Oh
of
right.
that
no.
pain for nothing.
Oh
Oh dear.
wow.
That's
Wow.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
wow.
but you know what? I think it was for the best, because I saw what competing entails, and I saw how unhealthy it was for me, for my body. I lost my period, and I literally almost lost my friends because I couldn't go out with them. I couldn't do anything. I was so tired all the time, so grumpy, and no, I wasn't feeling good. I struggled a lot in university to study because I couldn't focus. I couldn't focus for more than 10 minutes. I felt like it was impossible to study. All I was thinking, it was food, 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 when I get to eat. I was like snacking on lettuce or fennel all day, like a ship or something. I was just grazing all day on these like zero or very, very low calorie foods, just because I thought like if I keep my belly full, then I won't feel hunger. But then I understood that the hunger signal has nothing to do on how much food, how extended is your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point.
No,
It's
no,
hormonal.
exactly.
You're not gonna get the satiety signal until your body gets the nutrients it needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly
There's a
true.
big difference. There's a big difference with a gut full of fiber and then a satiety
Yeah,
feeling. Massive,
yeah,
massive
it's
difference.
massive, massive. And then I also, had like I wouldn't say had like I probably had actually disordered eating because I had episodes where, I was binging, especially when, you get like maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, you get the cheat day. So all the week I was just like thinking about what am I gonna eat? I'm gonna gorge myself on something, And I had like the list of all the foods that I wanted to eat on my cheat day,
Mm,
on my free day. So I was
mm,
eating like, oh my God, so much junk food on that day, and I would feel so bad.
mm,
Oh my God,
Yeah,
I would literally
the
feel so bad.
the sad part about all of that guidance that we have had in the past is that it will culminate in your body developing illnesses like
Yeah,
autoimmune diseases, like metabolic illnesses like diabetes type 2 and heart disease, arterial blockage. It's going to catch up with you eventually
it
because
is.
you're going to give up the calorie counting but continue with the carbohydrates. You're going to gain weight and you become an overweight older person. And by the time you're in your 40s, you're looking at some serious illnesses developing. So while you're younger, you can tolerate it a little bit, but it does catch up with you.
It does. Yeah, it's not immediate, but one day it will.
And can I look at the bigger issue here when when we look at like calorie deficits? And you mentioned about you lose your period. This is what we're seeing at the moment with young women. They just want to be skinny.
Yeah,
They don't understand the effects this is going to have on your fertility, your hormones, your chances of having kids when you're older. And this is what we're trying to get across to people, that when you're trying to get in shape, don't ever neglect your health. Don't ever
never.
do it.
Yeah,
Don't ever do it like what you did in the risk of your health. Like that's absolutely crazy. And this is what we're seeing as well with men. Men are losing their testosterone like very, very young, extremely young. I hear this all the time in the change rooms, like with men that are in their 30s and their 40s. They're exhausted, they're fatigued, they're thinking about going on TRT. And it's like, I'm 50 years of age. These guys are younger than me. And it's like, why are these people going through all this pain? Why are they suffering in their marriages? Why can't they not keep a relationship going? And it's all down to the food that they're eating, and I don't understand it. And why are these people not getting the information that we need? So I think what we need to be looking at is don't look at a diet as restriction, because
yeah,
this in my opinion is what's leading to massive eating disorders in the world, because we're constantly restriction. We're putting the body through an awful lot of stress that the body does not need, and this is what's doing a lot of damage. And people think that in order to be healthy, I just need to be skinny, or in order to be healthy, I just need to have a six pack.
yeah.
That's what's happening at the moment, and it's just poison. It's a diet culture poison.
Yeah, the six pack, thing, like maybe men can have it and be healthy, but I think women, unless it's very like genetic, and they don't gain weight on their tummy, I think like pushing your body to have a six pack or be like so lean, it's
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy. Because,
Very unhealthy. Yeah.
women, they need a little bit extra fat to be fertile and,
Mm-hmm.
for their hormones to work properly.
Yes. Yes. So talk me through then for people that are listening, because a lot of people will be listening and they're saying, okay, well, I don't understand. I thought it's all about calories. What's the difference between calories and hormones?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a lot to say. Where do you want me to start?
Okay, so let's talk about insulin and leptin and the roles they play in trying to lose weight. So let's focus on insulin first of all.
Okay. Well, I think I know the most of insulin compared to leptin, I think, because I'm still in my studying. But so the major factor on losing fat, because we're not talking about losing weight, because losing weight means, losing muscle mass, losing bone density, and, but you want to lose the fat, especially the visceral fat, because there's a big difference also between subcutaneous fat and visceral fat in terms of health. But so the role of insulin, it has so many roles in the body, but the main one is that insulin is a fat storage hormone. It's an anabolic hormone. So when you have like high insulin in your body, the signals that the fat cells receive is store whatever it's like, circulating in your blood system. It could be usually carbohydrates, because when you have an insulin spike, it's because you ate a lot of carbohydrates. But let's say that in that meal you had like a ribeye steak that it's pretty fatty and a lot of potatoes or like a side of pasta. So you're gonna have a lot of sugar in your system, but you're also gonna have fatty acids circulating. So you're gonna store both, because you're gonna maybe use a little bit of the carbohydrate for energy if you're like going to work out or going for a walk, but it's never gonna be so many carbohydrates. You don't need so many. So you're gonna store the rest in your fat cells. You're gonna store every fat circulating if you have it, if insulin is high. So the main thing to understand for women is, even if you're in a calorie deficit, if your insulin is constantly high, your cells will keep receiving the signal of storage, And the only way to actually start using your fat reserves is to push back insulin. Because when
Yes.
insulin is low, you can finally use the fatty acid, release the fatty acids from the fat cells. And I think that's what most people don't understand when they say it's all about calories in, calories out. And maybe they say like, yeah, you can eat like a donut a day that will spike your insulin, but you still lose fat. But yeah, because you only spike your insulin for like 2 or 3 hours, and then if you fast for 24 hours, you're still gonna be in a low insulin state the rest of the day. But of course, that's not healthy for you because you're not getting the
Exactly.
nutrition, and you're
Yes.
always gonna be hungry. So I think it's also a combination of insulin resistance and calories. I think we should look at calories later on. If you're really struggling to lose fat, maybe you should look at calories. But I think the first two ways to go, it's first address insulin resistance, stop eating carbohydrates, go on a low carbohydrate diet, maybe a carnivore diet if you also have like autoimmune diseases. I think everybody should do like a period of carnivore diet, like at 90 days. And then if you want to reintroduce maybe like avocado or some other things, you can try, see how your body reacts. But I think everybody should try the carnivore diet because it's like incredible healing diet. I don't even like to call it a diet because it's just like how humans should eat. And then if you stole your weight, I think you should introduce fasting. Fasting, it's an incredible tool because like if you go on a 24-hour fast, you're gonna be technically, I don't like to say, but technically you're gonna eat less because it's hard to eat like 3 meals in one meal, especially for women. I think eating all of those protein and fats in just one sitting, it's kind of hard. At least that's my experience. So, and you're going to address your insulin even more if you go on an extended fast because the insulin is going to be very low. You're going to start producing a lot of ketones, and that's a very healthy and metabolic state for your body. So I think those are the two main variables before even thinking about calories. Because
Yes.
let's be
100%.
real, nobody wants to weigh their food. Nobody wants to count their calories. It's just like, which other animal in the wild does that? Like we are the only ones to do that. It's And we just recently started doing that. Like nobody needed that when they were on like a true like proper human diet.
Yeah. Do you want to ask a
And
question,
also, yeah.
Victoria?
Well, I have personally found that because of the food that's offered to us as humans, sets us apart. And I found it very helpful when I was losing weight to be at a very high fat amount, like an 80/20. 80% of my total calories was fat. And only when I hit that marker was I able to lose the weight. And I did have to use a macro tracker app to
Mm-hmm.
get me there. But once I learned how much fat or butter that I had to eat during the day and how much protein was sufficient to maintain muscle synthesis, that the tracker came in a little bit handy. And I don't follow it religiously. I'll do it once in a while to make sure I'm still in the pocket of having the higher fat. And I don't need as much fat anymore because I'm not on a weight loss diet. That it helps a little bit when, especially if you're just starting carnivore, to get a good viewpoint of what it means to have that extra fat. Because a ketogenic diet, in concept, is high fat, moderate protein, and near zero carbohydrates. So it helps people to see, to envision that. And then, yes, once you get the hang of it, it becomes very natural to eat that way. So
Yeah.
that's just my two
Yeah.
cents.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit different because I never, when I take on a client, I never focus on the food scales or weighing your food. I focus more on the healing process. So when a person, like, think of it this way, when a person goes on a diet, what's the one thing they always struggle with? They always struggle with their hunger. They're like, okay,
That's
why
true.
why do I have to eat every 2 hours? And that was for me. I'm sure that was for you guys. We always had to eat every 2 hours, and every time we ate a meal, we'd be thinking about our next meal straight away. So that's where I focus on first. I will, okay, hang on a second. You have a food addiction. You have a sugar addiction. So why do you have a sugar addiction? And this is what Alessandra was talking about. The reason why you have a sugar addiction is because insulin is too high. Now, if insulin is too high, you're blocking the body from burning fat.
Yeah.
You're going to get these regular crashes all the way through the day. You know what I mean? It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. So this is the reason why you're getting these regular hunger problems. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate that quickly, very, very quickly. So now we need to look at the macronutrients and say, okay, what's having the biggest impact on insulin? Is it protein? You will get an insulin spike from if you eat too much protein, but not much. You won't get too much of an insulin spike from eating fats. Will you get a huge insulin spike from eating carbohydrates? Hugely, massively. Now, if there's too much sugar in the blood, which is what we all have, because that's what happens when you eat any carbohydrates, whether it's fruits, vegetables, complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, natural carbohydrates, whatever carbohydrate it is, it turns to sugar in the body. So what you're
Yeah.
doing is you're stopping fat burn. So that's what you're doing. So it's either if insulin is too high, what's happening is put it this way, when you look at insulin, insulin tells the body whether you're either going to burn fat or you're going to store fat. So if you
Yeah.
have too much insulin in your body, too much sugar, you're going to store way too much fat. So like Alessandra said, there's a difference between gaining weight and gaining body fat. Now, if you gain too much weight, you're storing glycogen. You're storing too much sugar. You're storing too much water. So when someone's obese and you put them on a diet and you get rid of the carbohydrates, what happens is they lose so much water. So they step on the weighing scales and they're like, oh my God, I've lost 20 pounds in 1 week. And they're like, oh, this is all body fat. It's not body fat. This is all glucose. This is all glycogen. This is all water retention. So if you're losing water retention, all this excess fluid, well, the question mark is this. Why do you need to put this excess fluid in the body in the first place? Why do we need to be eating this amount of carbohydrates? If this is causing inflammation and this is causing too much water retention, then surely we don't need this in our bodies. So then the
Yeah.
question is, okay, If we keep insulin low and keep leptin high and focus on the foods that are going to keep our leptin high, which is going to be proteins and fats, not just protein, because if we eat protein on its own, then we're not getting a different energy source in. So now we're talking about energy. So when we look at energy, we get energy from two sources. We get energy from carbohydrates and we get energy from proteins. We don't get energy from both. So when we look at the Randall cycle, this is what the Randall cycle focuses on. You're eating carbohydrates and proteins, but the Randall cycle will tell you we can only rely on one energy source. And at the moment, you're going to feel so much better eating fats because you're going to have sustained energy. So when Alessandra talked about fasting, it's going to come natural. You're not eating as many meals. You're only eating 2 meals a day, roughly. Most people probably
Yeah.
only eat 1 meal a day because you're not hungry
Sure,
all the
one
time.
meal.
Yeah, because you're not hungry. So what we want to do is we want to shut off the hunger so you're able to control your weight long term. Okay, not short term, because we know we can lose weight short term, but it's never going to be sustainable, and more than likely you're going to put the weight back on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Um, I One of the pivoting points for me to switch from an animal base, more like fruit and protein and fat, to just a carnivore diet was out of curiosity. I got one of those continuously glucose monitor for a couple of weeks. I just wanted to see like how much like blueberries, because at the time I was just eating some berries. I wasn't eating like bananas or like high sugar fruits. And that literally opened my eyes because I had the glucose monitor on, and I know it doesn't calculate insulin, but I could still see which food would spike my blood glucose, you know? And just eating a little handful of blueberries would spike my glucose, like insane. I'm shocked because imagine if you eat a plate of pasta. What does that do to your blood sugar? Like it's
Sky
insane.
high,
And
sky high.
so thanks to Benjamin Bigman, which I'm a big fan of, I was listening to one of his podcasts and he was talking about how there's only 4 grams of sugar at any time in your blood system. And so if you, for example, eat an apple that has 20 to 30 grams of sugar, half fructose, half glucose, that's going to be like 4 times the amount of sugar that you're supposed to be in your body. So of course it's going to impact your blood glucose. Blood glucose is going to go up. And so insulin is going to go up. And that's just by eating an apple. Everybody's like, yeah, an apple a day keeps you healthy. You know, that's what the doctor says. But like, no, one apple a day actually puts you in a fat storage mode. Like, you know, it raises your insulin. It gives you blood sugar control problems. And so that's why
Exactly.
when I switched like my mentality, I'm like, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't eat all of these berries with honey, you know, maybe I should
Mm.
not. And the same goes for I was testing coffee with milk. Milk still contains lactose, and that's a sugar. And it was giving me, it wasn't a big spike, but it was giving me a spike in insulin. And it was keeping me out of ketosis because I was tracking my ketones at the same time. I'm like, oh, okay, well, then maybe I should limit that. Maybe I should try to go without it, you know?
Yeah,
And
sorry.
no, it's
We
okay. Go ahead.
we toss around the term insulin resistance, but it's kind of off focus of the real problem. And the real problem is the excess sugar in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
And we mentioned the Randall cycle earlier. Mark mentioned it. And I mean, that usually governs your energy usage and it likes fatty acids. If you add sugar, your fatty acids will push the sugar out of the way. So it will use the fatty acids, yes, but the excess sugar in your bloodstream gets stored
Yeah.
by the insulin that it made produce. So it's really glucose and sugar in your bloodstream that cause the problems.
Hmm.
And we say insulin resistance, but it's not so much insulin resistance as excess blood sugar.
Hmm.
That's the real problem
And
that does
see,
the damage.
what we need to understand is that regardless of what sugar you're having, whether it's natural, complex, simple, whatever it
It
is,
just turns into sugar.
sugar is sugar. That's
Yeah.
it. It turns to sugar. It's going to have the same impact on the body, and this is what we're trying to explain to people, that you can lose weight eating sugar, like the sugar diet, easily. But what's going to happen is the impact on the body. That's the difference. So if you feel like I cannot control my hunger, I cannot control my cravings, I have this addiction to food, that's more important that you need to address. That's what you need to be focused on. And if this leads to, like, down the road, like you have issues with your health, like type 2 diabetes, obesity, PCOS, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, so many conditions. And these people are not telling you why this is happening. They're just focusing still on, okay, you just need to lose weight. Just lose weight. That's all you need to do. Then obviously there's a problem there. You need to learn, guys, what Victoria was saying. Okay? If there's too much sugar in the blood, it's going to cause a major, major problem with your health. And that's what we need to be focusing on. And you need to understand what Alessandra said, that when it comes to getting in shape, your hormones are vital. You need to
Yeah.
control your insulin, you need to control your leptin, you need to understand what cortisol is, because cortisol is a stress hormone that can affect people as well in regards to gaining weight. Like if you've got a really poor lifestyle, you've got a poor job, you've got way too much stress in your life, that's just going to lead to an elevated blood spike
Yeah. Poor
also.
sleeping.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
poor
think,
sleep.
yeah, circadian rhythms, I think, are very important for us human to respect. Not eating at night. I found for me, it's very helpful because even if I eat carnivore food, if I eat very late at night, that impacts my sleep and so my
Mm,
cortisol, and I tend to gain weight in my lower belly. I
mm,
tend to see that.
mm.
So I think that's pretty important, like the timing of when you eat.
And
I don't
just
know if you
going,
agree.
no, I do agree. And that's what I want to go back to the very, very beginning when you were talking about that you were doing so much training. Like this is what your coach told you what to do. You have to do your walks, you have to do your training. People don't understand that this amount of training,
Oh
you're
yeah,
putting way, way too much stress on your body. Way too
way
much.
too much.
Your body's just gonna fight back and say, well, listen, I can't do this anymore. It's just going to
Yeah.
break down your body. You're going to feel miserable. You're not going to get the results that you want. Fat loss is going to stall.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
my fellows.
these experts will tell you, okay, if your fat loss is stalled, you just need to go in and do more cardio.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Lower the calories or do more cardio, but I wasn't losing the weight.
Crazy. It's just causing more
Yeah, it's
stress.
just crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. And I hear it all the time. And when I heard your story, I was like, this is what really, really frustrates me, because
And that's what,
they don't
yeah,
understand. They don't understand it.
I think that's what like most of like young girls especially, but like even later, they just go through this,
Hmm.
They have trust in like a fitness coach because they think going to the gym, like eat less and move more. That's the usual line, the famous line that they tell you, like, so go to the gym, get a coach, count your calories, that's what you need to do. But
Mm.
that's not what you need to do. And all
No.
of these poor women are just stuck in this cycle for years and years and years, and they just develop insulin resistance, they develop gut issues problem, they
Hmm.
develop eating disorders, they can't lose the weight, and they
Hmm.
just feel like, well, that's not working, so just might as well go back to eating whatever I want. I feel like that's one of the biggest problems with women that just follow all of these diet trends and like calorie counting, and it never works. It never
Mm.
works because they don't know what's going on in their body. They don't know how to balance their hormones. They don't know the effect of insulin resistance. And I wanted to bring up something that I find very interesting that I also learned from Benjamin Bickman, and I wanted to hear your thoughts about that. Um, Another thing with calorie counting is that we think that protein, fats, and carbohydrates are pretty much, the three micronutrients, they're the same. You can eat whatever grams of carbs, whatever grams of fat and protein, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. But they don't understand that, like, yes, the fat and carbohydrates have a role of energy. They're, what gives us energy, but carbohydrates are not essential to begin with, and
Mm.
fat, other than being the main energy system, they also have other role, like other function in our body, that hormones, like making all the membranes. They have, like, our brain is made of fats, like 60% of our brain is made of fat. Cholesterol is very important. And so they fail to understand that it's not equivalent getting carbohydrates or fats from energy, because you need the carbohydrates for other function, the fats for other functions in your body, and you obviously don't need the carbohydrates. But the other thing is that they think that protein, it's also considered like in this energy system, but protein doesn't really have it's not like one of our main energy source. Protein have other structural function in our body, so we must eat protein, but we don't use protein for energy, other than like a little bit of it for maybe gluconeogenesis, when we need glucose for, like, our red blood cells, or the brain, or other system in
Mm.
our body. But so how can you put everything in the same, like, energy system, calorie system, if they obviously have different function in your body? Like, you shouldn't consider protein part of the calories,
Mm.
pretty much, because you're not going to use them for energy.
Exactly. Go ahead, Victoria. You want to answer?
Well, I did want to emphasize that it's true. They're trying to equate them all, and that's the basis of their being incorrect.
Yeah.
And one thing I do know from Dr. Nadir Ali, who's a cardiologist and a carnivore, he practices in Texas. He's told us that plant oils are more refined and easier for the cells to uptake for usage. So that will, if you consume plant oils, as we've been told to do for many years, low fat diet, introduced more plant oils into our diet, um, that suppresses cholesterol uptake in the cells. Now, our body's making 80% of the cholesterol that exists in our body. We get some from the diet, about 20%, but
Yeah.
not as much. The body produces cholesterol for two very major reasons. One, to repair cells, and two, to help us create our hormones, specifically our gender related hormones, the
Yeah.
testosterone and estrogen. And without that cholesterol, when we suppress it with the plant oils, we're losing that ability to regenerate our cells and create our hormones. So therefore, we go into decline and we age, probably prematurely. Yeah, it's really bad thinking to glom them all together, as we say in the States, to make them equal. They're not equal. They each have a purpose. And yes, with protein, you can overeat protein, and it will, because the liver will prioritize protein as an energy source over fat and over, well, if you're not having readily available carbohydrates. So it will use protein as an energy source, and it will use it in a way that's very much like carbohydrates with gluconeogenesis, where you use what you need immediately and the rest gets stored as fat. So yeah, to make them all equal is very
Hmm.
unfair and uninformed.
And that's if you eat protein in an excess. What do you believe an excess would look like? Like, how many
Um,
protein you think we
Well,
should
I
consume?
spoke earlier about the proportions, the ratio of fat to protein in relation to your total overall calories. That you need to get at least the range is from Bart K. He starts at 60% fat as in relation to overall calories to 80% is the top of the range, I think, and that leaves your protein at 40% to 20% is the range of protein. Now, again, it's kind of hard to gauge that just from eyeballing it, and that's why I like the macro tracker, which helps you get an idea of the numbers.
Mm.
But anything more then 40% of your overall caloric intake as protein is too much and is going to tip the balance. And as a diet coach, as a group, I've seen so many times through the years, we've been about 6 years online, that people stop losing weight on the carnivore diet because they ignore the fat and they just eat the protein. So their protein percentage is probably more like 80%,
Mm,
where that should be where your fat is.
mm.
So yeah, excess protein in that proportion will cause weight gain and weight stall.
Yeah, and for me, like it depends on the person, but like if you're over say 40 years of age, I like to have my clients on a high protein diet. So I'll aim for probably around 1 gram, maybe 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So let's say if someone weighs 160 pounds, I'll probably have them on around 250, maybe 300 grams of protein a day, roughly. But if they're under 40, I'll always go with pretty much around probably 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if someone's 160 pounds, I'll have them on 160 grams of protein a day. Now, if someone's looking to lose weight, I'll always have them on a higher fat diet. Always. I never have them on high protein because there's a simple reason for this. Because when you're looking to drop body fat, we're not prioritizing building muscle. We're just trying to get as much body fat off the body as quick as possible. So, but you want to make sure you're feeling good at the same time. So I could easily say to somebody, okay, go high protein and go very, very little fat. They're going to lose the weight, but they're going to be miserable. So I like to drop the protein down and keep the fats really, really high. That way they're going to lose the weight and they're going to feel great. Their hormones are going to be functioning amazing. Everything's just going to feel really, really good. Yeah, when they get lean and they look amazing, then I'll flip the macros around. I'll bring their fats down and I'll increase the protein because at this stage, they're trying to build muscle. So we know in order for you to build muscle, the muscle needs amino acids for the muscles to grow. We know that we don't grow the muscle in the gym, we grow the muscle outside the gym. So we need to feed the muscle the protein it needs. So that's how I do it. I always make sure, okay, I'll look at the person and I'll say, right, okay, what do you want to do first? Okay, for most people, we need to lose the weight, we need to drop the body fat. Okay, fats are going really, really high. Protein is coming down. And then once I get you lean, then I flip the macros around. How about you, Alessandra?
Uh, so on this topic, can I ask you, Mark? So some people, for what I understood, like I believe in this like high fat method, but like some people would tell me you either like if you're trying to lose fat, if you eat high fat, it's a little controversial because like you either use for energy the dietary fat or you use for energy your body fat.
Mm-hmm.
So how come a higher fat approach actually makes you lose weight?
With the higher fats, we need to understand what fat actually does to the body. Fat actually heals the body. So it's going to improve so many things. You're going to become insulin sensitive, which is what we want. We don't want to be insulin resistant, like you guys have been talking about. We don't want to be in that situation. So when we eat higher fats, it's going to keep us satiated. It's going to keep us full. So we're not going to have to eat on a regular basis. You know what I mean? So, and I see this all the time. I have female clients that are on nearly 150 grams of fats a day, and they're losing so much weight. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And this is what we need to move away from because we've been taught for a long, long time that when we look at calories, for every 1 gram of fat, you're getting 9 calories. So obviously, if you're eating 100 grams of fats, people are going to be thinking 100 grams of fats equals 9 calories. Whereas if I eat 100 grams of carbohydrates, it's only 400 calories. So if you do the
Yeah,
maths, it makes perfect sense. If I eat the carbohydrates, I'm going to lose weight. But that's not what we
yeah.
should be focusing on. We're trying to get the hormones functioning the way they should be functioning. Because that's what's happening at the moment. Everybody is struggling because their hormones are out of whack. Okay, so it's not down to calories, it's more down to nutrition deficiency. That's where people are struggling. So we need to move away from the calorie model, because we know we can lose weight being on a low calorie diet.
Hmm.
But we've been speaking about this for the last hour. It's never going to be sustainable. What's going to be sustainable is being on a high fat animal based diet. You know what I mean? I've been doing
Yeah.
this now. I've been doing this now 4 years. I'm eating over 350 grams of fat a day. I'm struggling to put on weight. I can't put on weight. I'm walking around with a six pack now for the last 4 years. I don't track any macros. I don't track any calories. I look at myself in the mirror every single day and I'm like, okay, this is incredible. For years, I had to work really, really hard to see my six pack. I don't do that anymore. It's like
Hmm.
I'm eating as much food as I want, and I can still walk around very, very lean. And it's like, okay, that's what we need to be focusing on. So when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the fats, move away from the calorie model. It's got nothing to do with the calorie model.
Mm-hmm.
It's the impact these foods have on your body. That's what we should be focusing on.
So would you suggest this approach only for the beginning? So for someone that is new to carnivore, that it's like malnourished, because the problem now with people is that they're overweight, but they're very, very malnourished because they don't get the essential vitamins and nutrients that they need.
Mhm.
So would you just put them on a high fat diet to balance their hormones and bring their insulin down to begin with? Or would you suggest that for like someone that it's already carnivore, that it's already um like in a good place with their hormones and with their hunger signal, and they've been carnivore for a long time, let's say, but they're stalling with their weight? What would you suggest for that kind of person?
Okay, so if they're stalling with their weight, then I'd be asking like, how long are you on carnivore? So
Okay.
I'd be saying, okay, if you're only on carnivore like 2 months, then I would say, okay, you're still not past the healing process. So
Okay.
most people will need to go get past the healing process, and it takes on average between 6 and 20 weeks, maybe a little bit longer for the average person.
Mm-hmm.
So usually when you see a stall, that's the first priority. The second priority is just titrating the macronutrients. Which one are you going to titrate? Are you going to bring protein down, or are you going to bring fat down? Now for women, I work with an awful lot of women. What I see with women is that they do a lot better on high fats, and with
Mm-hmm.
men, I see men do better on high protein.
And
I
that
think,
comes down to
yeah,
hormone. Yeah.
yeah, I think for women it's a little bit more complicated with women because again, you look at the hormone factor, you look at their estrogen, progesterone, all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more complicated. And I also have a lot of females that struggle with PCOS. Now with
Mm-hmm.
PCOS, these people struggle to lose weight. Like really, you could put these people on 1,000 calories a day. If they're insulin resistant, they won't lose weight. They're going to struggle. So
Yeah,
now,
well.
so what I do is I make sure their fats are really, really high, like really high. So if we look at percentages, I would probably have a female that's a PCOS female, roughly around 70% of our overall food intake coming from fats and around 25-30% coming from protein. Now that's going to be very, very small. So let's say I'm dealing with someone who's 160 pounds. I'm going to probably have them on around probably about 90, maybe around 90 grams of protein a day, which is very, very low, extremely low. But again, that's not the priority. The priority is to get them lean first of all, get the body fat off, make
Mm-hmm.
them feel very, very good. And then once they're lean, then we do a reverse diet. We add the protein in slowly. We put them into the gym. We say, right, okay, you're going to start lifting muscle now. You're going to be gaining lean muscle mass. Then you watch them on a week to week basis, on a month to month basis. And once the metabolism starts speeding up and they're gaining more muscle, then you give them more food. You add more protein in, but you make sure that the ratios of protein and fats are going to be always slightly higher fats and slightly lower protein, because you want to make sure their energy levels are perfect. If their energy levels dip and they're feeling crap and they're miserable, well, then that's a sign the fats are too low and the protein is too high. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. When you talk about percentage, do you base it on calories, or do you just use, like, for example, different type of foods, like for example, a ribeye or eggs compared to, I don't know, a leaner cut? If you want
Yeah,
to up the protein and lower.
yeah, I wouldn't focus on calories. I'm just focusing on
Okay.
macros. That's pretty much
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So when you look at a standard ribeye for every 100 grams, you're going to get 20 grams of protein and you're going to get 20
Mm-hmm.
grams of fats. Now,
Okay.
if you look at like a lean steak, you're going to get probably around 20 grams of protein, and you're going to get very little. You're going to get very little fat in that. So if someone
Mm-hmm.
says to me like I don't like eating the fat on a ribeye steak, for example, and they say I can eat lean steak, well, I need to make sure, okay, if they're getting their protein, it's 20 grams of protein, then I need to make sure they're getting 20 grams of fats with that meal. So that's when they'll have to add those fats in externally. Add like cook with like ghee, butter, beef tallow, duck fat, whatever you want, coconut oil, but it has to be the same ratio as the
Mm-hmm.
100 grams of protein. So let's say if they're eating 400 grams of lean steak, that's gonna equate to 80 grams of protein. Okay,
Okay.
I need to make sure they're getting the exact same in the fats, so they're getting
So
80 grams.
okay, so you're going to like a 1-on-1 ratio.
1-on-1 always, yeah,
Okay,
1-on-1
so
always.
1-on-1, you consider 1-on-1 to be high fat or to be moderate fat?
1-on-1, you're always going to be higher protein, always, or sorry, higher fats, always.
Higher fat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that sorry, that makes sense.
Mm,
But I wanted to bring up some I saw someone saying talking about like our ancestors and how the animals that we were hunting at the time, it was like, ruminant animals, uh probably like deers, buffaloes and like those type of animals, they were probably lower in fat than the type of animals that we eat now because they're
mm,
probably farmed or
mm,
they're just like higher in fat. Usually what you find at the market, for example, a ribeye, it's fattier than the cut that would have been like in the past because the
mm,
animals were like free to move and roam, and so they were healthier and more lean.
mm.
What would you, if you can
Go
please elaborate on that, what do you think about that?
go ahead, Victoria. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think that they were not consuming plant oils. And the plant oils are what blocks the cholesterol. So
Mm,
what fat they did get, they were able to utilize.
Mm-hmm.
And they did favor the fatty parts of the animals and
They
ate
did.
as much fat as they could get their hands on. So I think that part of the equation is a lot less processed food and a lot less vegetation that might block, in terms of fiber, their absorption of the fat that they did get. So they were more, fat was more readily available to their bodies and they could utilize it more efficiently. That's my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay, so Alexandra, I want to be respectful of your time, so I have two final questions for you. The first one is,
Okay.
what does a typical day of food wise look for you at the moment? What are you doing? One meal a day, two meals a day?
I usually do 2 meals a day because I work out in the morning and then I'm pretty hungry around noon. So I'm usually like on a 16, 18 hour fasting, but I've been trying to implement some 24-hour fasting to see if I can, get a little bit more lean. But I usually eat a ton of eggs in the morning, eggs and probably some type of other protein on the side. Sometimes it's sardines, sometimes it's like some sort of sausages or bacon, cooked in butter, sometimes some cheese, some hard cheese like Parmesan. And then my second meal of the day, it's usually always ground beef because
Mm,
that's, it's easy to make, it's cheap, and sometimes I get some steak, but it's more rare occasion,
mm,
So
mm.
I would love to eat ribeye every day, but
Yeah,
I can't
too
afford
ex
that.
too
So
expensive.
yeah, it's usually like maybe a pound of ground beef, 50%, 15% fat. That's what I can find the 20%
Yeah.
unless I get like some grass-fed frozen patties from Costco. They have 20%, but that's pretty much my yeah, they're like 50%, 15% fat, the meat that I consume. And sometimes I add some Parmesan cheese on it, some avocado if I have it. And that's pretty much what I eat.
And
I
my second
Yeah.
question for you is, if someone's listening right now who's in the same situation as you, that they've done the coaching, they've done the low calorie diets, they just don't know what to do. they're running out of options similar to you. What advice would you give these people?
Well, I would tell them to contact you guys. I, I would probably, if I have to coach them, then I would just educate them truly on all the hormones and the roles that they have in our body and how that affects fat loss. But if I have to give like an easy advice to people, would be get rid of all the processed food to begin with. At least get rid of all the processed food, and if you can get rid of most of the carbohydrates, all the starches, I wouldn't want someone consuming grains and starches. If they want to progress to the carnivore diet slowly, because maybe they don't want some side effect, that could be a little bit of electrolytes imbalance and like feeling that like hunger, because your body is still like dependent from sugar, so they're gonna have a lot of cravings at the beginning. I think it's not easy to cut everything out and go straight to a carnivore diet like some people do it, but maybe some people needs to transition, especially if they, for example, my family struggles a little bit with food because they grew up like so many years in the low fat, cholesterol is bad for you need to eat your greens, and so it's kind of hard for them to understand what I'm telling them. Like they think I'm crazy. Like what are you saying? You want to kill us? You want to give us like artery problems and heart attacks? I'm like, no, that's what's actually healthy for you. But I think people should like transition to carnivore maybe in a couple of weeks, as you said, just start them with high fat, start them with like, I would start them with unlimited food, like eat as much as your body wants, and then slowly progress to like looking at the ratio of fat to protein, look at fasting a little bit more. But yeah, I would advise everybody to ditch all the processed food and all the grains, at least, to begin with.
Any final
And
thoughts, Victoria? Sorry, go. Sorry,
sorry,
Go ahead.
Yes,
Sorry,
sorry.
that was fine.
that and get rid of the seed oils too,
Yeah, the
because
seed
sometimes
oils
they
too, of
don't think
course.
about that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the majority of seed oils we can find in processed food, so that would be
Mhm.
unless you cook with seed oils. That, yeah, I didn't think about that. Some people do, but yeah, cook
Well,
with
yeah,
butter
I'm
and tallow.
I'm
Yeah,
anti-plant oil in general,
yeah,
so that excludes
includes.
avocado and
Okay,
coconut and olive as
okay,
well, because those have a high percentage of saturated fat, but the rest of it is the phytosterols that block the
yeah.
cholesterol. So even some of our influencers, like Dr. Berry, are saying get away from those plant oils and stick with the animal fats.
Yeah, I don't really use any plant oil, to be honest. I mean, I'm Italian, so I might drizzle some olive oil like on the occasion, but I would never cook with it because I know all the oxidation process. So I cook with butter or tallow. Yeah, I don't use coconut oil, avocado oil at all. But yes, I would also try to educate them about fruit and fructose because people think fruit is healthy, and I would try to educate them about like the fruit that we have today has nothing to do with the fruit that we had in the past, and it was
Yes.
never available all year long. It was never so high in sugar. And so you honestly, I don't think people should eat fruit. I think maybe seasonally, if you find like some wild, I tried wild blueberries one on accident. I thought they were like the normal blueberries, and they were so bitter. They're honestly, I couldn't eat them. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't like that. They're not good. They're not good. And people don't realize that those are the blueberries that actually exist in the wild, and you wouldn't eat them because they're bitter, because they're not good for you.
Hmm.
It's not like the little sugar bombs that they create now. That's
Yes.
fruit has nothing to do with what we can find in the market. And I would
Exactly
probably,
true.
you know, try to educate them about oxalates, lectins, and all of the plant toxins too. But just take my time with them, because sometimes with people that grew up for years and years and years hearing that vegans are healthier, then meat is bad for you, all of that. You kind of have to go slow with them. Unless they're ready to, try something new because they're so tired of all the usual advice they get. Then in that case, I would be so happy to just like jump in the carnivore diet.
Amazing advice. So if people want to reach out to you, Alessandra, or they want to watch your content, where can people go to find you?
Well, for now, I'm only on Instagram at Primal Health Code. I'm gonna start making some YouTube videos very, very shortly. But yeah,
Well, I have to
right
say
now it's Instagram.
your content is absolutely incredible. It really is. I love
Wonderful.
the way you speak to
Oh,
the
Yes.
thank you.
camera. I love the way the visuals. It's just I can't believe you don't have a big following because I remember watching your videos like months ago before we even met,
Oh, okay.
before we
Well,
even
I'm
got
I'm
into.
try I'm trying my best,
Oh, they're
Uh,
absolutely incredible, incredible.
if you have any advice, because I noticed it's easier to reach people that are like coaches like you or people that are already convinced on the carnivore diet, but my goal is to reach those women that are struggling,
Mm, mm.
Do
Well,
you have any advice?
maybe we should do a collab on one of your videos.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
We'll do a collab because I would love to be part of one of your videos because
Mm-hmm.
I think the way you edit your videos, how you actually structure your videos, they're a lot better than mine because you've seen my videos. I just walk and talk. That's all I do. But
It's just different.
yours
You're
is
more
just
genuine than me.
yeah. But yours is like straight to the point. You're speaking to the camera and like
Thank you.
your algorithm is incredible. It's the exact same thing every day. You're just speaking
Thank
to the
you.
camera and yeah, I'd be willing to help you out. We should definitely do one or two collabs.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, I just want to reach out and I want to reach out to the right people and try and help people as much as possible. So yeah, let's have a conversation about it and let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
Great.
great. And it
Yeah.
was a pleasure to meeting you, Victoria, too.
Thank you. And same here. I'm very glad to meet you and I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
It was an amazing conversation. Thanks very much,
Yeah,
Alexander,
amazing.
for coming
Thank
on.
thank you. That went great.
Okay, so
Thank you,
I really like
Alexandra.
I'll keep you on this and we'll just and you can just press stop there now, Victoria.
All
all
right.
right.
Bye,
Okay.
guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.